December 2024. Notre-Dame reopens. World leaders fly in from every continent. Macron stands at the entrance in a tailored suit. The cameras roll. 860 years old, burned to the frame in 2019, rebuilt in 5 years. The official story is triumph, resilience, the eternal city restoring its crown jewel to a grateful world. But the acoustic researchers who walked back inside that day measured something that nobody in the mainstream coverage chose to report. The sound was better than before the fire. Not restored to what it was, better, cleaner, more resonant, more alive, as if the fire hadn't damaged the building, as if the fire had, in some precise and terrible way, improved it. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Because you do not accidentally improve an 800-year-old acoustic instrument by setting it on fire. That is not how physics works. That is not how restoration works. That is not how anything in the material world works. Unless the building is not what we were told it was, unless what burned in April 2019 was not a medieval church damaged by a construction accident, but something far older, far more deliberate, and far more dangerous to leave intact. I started this investigation looking for one anomaly in the construction record. What I found was a pattern that runs from the 12th century to December 2024. A pattern connecting the most advanced acoustic engineering ever measured, the disappearance of a civilization from the historical record, a fire whose cause 5 years of investigation cannot determine, and a building that functions better after burning than it did before. Once you see this pattern, you cannot unsee it. Here is what every history class tells you. Construction on Notre-Dame began in 1163. It took 182 years to complete. Medieval workers with hand tools, wooden scaffolding, no blueprints, no engineering calculations, no understanding of acoustic physics, built the tallest structure on Earth at that time. 32 meters of stone, rising above the Seine. The result, we are told, was a masterpiece of intuitive craftsmanship, a happy accident of genius that happened to produce one of the most acoustically sophisticated enclosed spaces ever measured by modern science. That explanation held for about 800 years. Then the building burned, and the researchers went inside. And what they found inside that stone was not the product of intuition or accident. It was the product of a knowledge so precise, so deliberate, so far ahead of anything else documented in the 12th century, that the scientists who published their findings could not offer an explanation for where that knowledge came from. They described the engineering as unprecedented. They described the planning as systematic. They used the word indisputably when referring to the sophistication of the construction. What they did not do, what no official researcher has done, is ask the obvious next question. If medieval craftsmen with hand tools did not possess the knowledge required to build this, then who did? The official story says craftsmen built this through 2 centuries of trial and error. The physical evidence says someone designed it completely before the first stone was laid. Those are not the same thing, and the distance between them is where this investigation begins. The evidence has been hiding in plain sight the entire time. I want to give you one number, because one number is enough to collapse the official story completely. 9 seconds. That is the reverberation time inside Notre Dame's vaults. 9 seconds of a single sung note, filling the stone from every direction simultaneously. The lead researcher from Sorbonne University who measured it described the experience this way: sound coming at you from all around, as full as you can imagine. For context, And context is everything here. A modern concert hall, designed by acoustic engineers using computational modeling software that didn't exist 50 years ago, targets 1.8 to 2.2 seconds of reverberation. A world-class opera house, 2 seconds. The best recording studios on Earth, 0.3 seconds. Notre-Dame, 9 seconds. 4 times what the most sophisticated modern acoustic engineering can deliberately produce. And here is where the official story stops making sense entirely. In the 12th century, 2 composers named Periton and Léonin created something that had never existed before in Western music: polyphony. Multiple melodic voices sung simultaneously, weaving together into harmonics that no single voice could produce alone, an innovation so radical it defined the next 5 centuries of musical history. But here is what the acoustic research shows. That music does not work anywhere else. The polyphony of the Notre-Dame school requires exactly this acoustic environment to function as designed. The long reverberation takes separate melodic lines and fuses them, the building itself completing the harmony that the human voices begin. Which means the composers did not write music for a building, they wrote music for an instrument made of stone, 32 meters tall, producing 9 seconds of controlled resonance that 4 times exceeds what modern science can deliberately replicate. And we are supposed to believe that medieval workers with hand tools built this by intuition. The silence surrounding that claim is deafening. Now I need to tell you what I believe Notre-Dame actually is. Not what it became over 8 centuries of use, what it was designed to be from the first stone. If you are familiar with Tartaria, the vast civilization that appears on European maps through the early 1800s and then vanishes from the cartographic record with no explanation, no conquest, no documented disappearance, then you already know what researchers in this space have long observed about Gothic cathedrals. They are not churches. They are nodes. Look at the timing. Notre-Dame, 1163. Chartres, 1194. Bourges, 1195. Reims, 1211. Amiens, 1220. Cologne, 1248. Salisbury, 1220. León in Spain, 1205. The same decades, the same engineering, the same acoustic properties. Spreading across territories that spanned multiple kingdoms, multiple languages, multiple warring political entities, connected by nothing faster than a horse. Now, open a map and plot these cathedrals. Every major Gothic cathedral in northern France sits along a corridor running northwest to southeast, each one placed at a distance from the next, representing approximately 1 day's travel on horseback. Not clustered around population centers, not placed for maximum congregation access. Spaced, precisely, as if someone was installing transmitters in a network rather than building places of worship for local communities. And when Tartaria disappears from the maps sometime in the mid-1800s, quietly, without war or treaty or any documented event, the construction of new Gothic cathedrals stops at roughly the same moment. Not gradually, not because of changing architectural fashion. The network stops being extended precisely when the civilization that built it stops being acknowledged on maps. The official explanation for both facts is coincidence. Gothic style became fashionable, then unfashionable. Cartographers reorganized their territorial classifications, 2 independent developments that happened to align. But what is being described here is not style, it is a science, Acoustic engineering at this level, 9 seconds of controlled reverberation reproduced consistently across hundreds of structures on 2 continents, does not travel by word of mouth. It does not emerge independently from local craftsmen in France, Germany, Spain, and England within the same 50-year window with no shared documentation. Someone knew what they were building. Someone understood the physics. Someone coordinated the installation of this network across a continent. And then someone made sure that understanding disappeared. The same decade the last cathedral stopped being built, the same era Tartaria vanishes from the maps, the same period when the official history of medieval Europe is written, retrospectively by institutions with a clear interest in what that history contains. We are technological orphans living on the ruins of a masterpiece we didn't build and cannot fully explain. April 15, 2019, 6:18 p.m. A fire alarm activates inside Notre-Dame. The security employee who receives the alert is 3 days into his job at the cathedral. He is working his second consecutive shift because his replacement did not show up. He radios a guard and asks him to check the attic. The guard goes to the wrong building, the adjoining sacristy, finds no fire, and reports back. By the time the error is discovered, 15 minutes have passed. By the time anyone reaches the cathedral attic, the fire is already uncontrollable. Here is the sequence. I want you to read it slowly. 6:18. Alarm sounds. 6:18. Guard sent to wrong location. 6:28. Guard returns. No fire found. 6:43. Error discovered. 6:48. Guard finally reaches cathedral attic. Fire already uncontrollable. 6:51. Fire brigade called for the first time. 7:50. The spire falls. 33 minutes between the first alarm and the first call to the fire department. In the most visited monument in Europe, a building that receives 13 million tourists per year, a building with a fire protection plan that took 6 years and thousands of pages of regulation to develop. A building where, according to one security employee who spoke to investigators, false alarms had been occurring at a rate of over 10 per day in the weeks before the fire. 10 false alarms per day. So the system was set to restricted mode, quieted, because it alarmed too often, in the weeks before the fire that destroyed it. I want to be precise about what I am and am not saying here. I am not telling you the fire was deliberately set. I am telling you that every single layer of protection surrounding the most famous building in the world failed simultaneously, in sequence, over 33 minutes on the night it burned. The new guard. The wrong building. The restricted alarm. The 33 minutes. The undetermined cause. 5 years of official investigation followed. As of the 2024 reopening, the cause remains officially undetermined. The most photographed, filmed, documented building in human history burned for hours in the center of a major capital city in the age of surveillance cameras and mobile phones. And 5 years later, nobody knows how it started. I am not telling you what to conclude. I am telling you what the documented record shows. While the fire burned, the stone held. The vaulted ceiling, the same vaulted geometry that produces 9 seconds of reverberation, absorbed the collapse of the burning roof above it. The force of 800 years of ancient oak falling in flames from 32 meters was contained by the stone beneath it. The 3 rose windows installed in the 13th century survived with minimal damage. The altar survived. Both pipe organs survived. The stone, built by people who understood how stone behaves, held. And when the restoration teams went inside to begin their work, they found things that had been sealed inside that building since the Middle Ages. 2 lead sarcophagi beneath the cathedral floor, discovered during post-fire excavation that would never have occurred without the damage. One containing a senior church official from the early 18th century. The other holding an unidentified individual from an earlier period, buried with artifacts suggesting exceptional status. Sealed beneath the floor of Notre-Dame, undisturbed, unknown, until the fire made opening the ground necessary. What those sarcophagi contain has not been fully published, but the discovery the acoustic researchers described as most unexpected was this: 800 years of accumulated soot coating every surface of the interior stone, every vault, every column, every wall, had been acting as a dampener the entire time. Slowly, incrementally, across 8 centuries, the resonance of the building had been muffled. The instrument had been going quiet. The way a piano left untouched in a dusty room loses its brightness year by year without anyone noticing because the change is too slow to perceive. The thorough cleaning the restoration required stripped that soot from the stone. And the acoustics did not return to what they had been before the fire. They returned to something earlier, something closer to the original performance of the instrument. The acoustic researcher described it this way: it's like lifting a veil. I want you to sit with the full weight of that. The building that supposedly took 200 years to build by hand, that produces acoustic properties 4 times beyond what modern computational engineering achieves deliberately, works better now after being set on fire than it did at any point in living memory. Inherited, not invented. Here is what the record shows. A building producing acoustic properties 4 times beyond what modern engineering can deliberately achieve. Music composed specifically to operate inside those acoustics and nowhere else. The same technology appearing simultaneously across hundreds of structures on 2 continents with no documented coordination. A fire alarm system deliberately restricted weeks before the fire. 33 minutes between the first alert and the first call to firefighters. 5 years of investigation, no determined cause. And the building performs better now than it did before it burned. The academics call it craftsmanship. The fire investigators call it inconclusive. The restorers say the fire revealed things that centuries of access had not. What they found beneath the floor, they have not fully explained. What the acoustics reveal about what this building actually was, nobody in an official capacity is asking. We are technological orphans, living on the ruins of a masterpiece we didn't build and don't fully understand. The truth does not stay buried forever. It simply waits for the right questions.